soon as my mom told me to get down, just something flew through that window.
River dangers. Kayakers learned a lesson the hard way. Boating on a rising river is not a good idea.
They shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Earth Day 2023. How you can help make our planet better for generations to come.
We only have one planet, and it's our job to take care of it.
Plus, how robots are helping clean polluted waterways. And did you know birds can help predict the weather?
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Well, good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Eileen Whalen. It was a stormy night in Texas. Heavy rain and hail fell across the Lone Star State. One tornado formed in Tyler, 100 miles east of Dallas, and thankfully there was only minor damage there. Now, the heavy rain flooded streets in Austin. There were at least 10 water rescues in and around Austin yesterday. And in one incident, the person who called 911 reportedly did so from a tree. There was flooding in San Antonio as well, with wind gusts near 60 miles per hour and reports of hail. About 40,000 customers statewide are without power. The storms forced cancellation of the first day of San Antonio's Fiesta celebrations. It's an annual event celebrating the city's history and culture. And in Houston, the storm brought wind gusts of 40 miles an hour. Now, there were reports of quarter-size hail. The storms will come to an end midday as a cold front passes through. And at least 8 confirmed tornadoes whipped through Oklahoma on Wednesday night, killing at least 3 people. On Thursday, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt declared a state of emergency in 5 counties. Now, residents are surveying the damage and beginning what will be a long cleanup and recovery. David Chastanov is in Cole, where a twister tore apartment lives.
I was standing like right here, and as soon as my mom told me to get down, just something flew through that window.
Almost 29 years of memories destroyed in one night.
And then when it was all over, we tried to get out of the house. My son came out and said that it was spewing propane, and then we needed to go. So we loaded the dogs and we started walking.
Family and friends got there as fast as they could.
They went through electrical lines to get to us, to get us out. They got Mama out.
It was April Tyler's 80-year-old mother's home.
We were praying that God would spare us, and he did. Everything that was really important was my family.
Family and friends are now helping gather some of Linda Price's belongings.
Let's get out of here. We'll figure this out. We'll move forward, because it's just stuff. It's just stuff.
Well, Oklahoma Baptist University in Shawnee was also hit hard by a tornado on Wednesday. Students and officials from across the state are now on scene to help with cleanup efforts for what the university president is calling the worst natural disaster in the school's history. Jamison Kiefover has more.
Metal, branches, and glass scattered across the OBU campus. But even when the debris is gone, the terrifying experience will stay with students.
Everyone rushed to the corner of the laundry room. It felt like the winds were really powerful, and it felt like the door was about to fly open and just take us all, really. It was super loud. Everybody was really freaked out. I'm not going to lie, I was crying.
The worst natural disaster OBU has ever experienced in its 113 years. That's according to the university's president. Thankfully, no injuries were reported on campus. Classes are canceled until further notice. Damage was not limited to the university campus. Across Shawnee, the city's electrical infrastructure was left a mangled mess. Cleanup efforts are underway, but students at OBU are wondering how their semester is going to end. Reporting in Shawnee, Oklahoma, I'm Jamison Kiefover.
Now, those storms today are moving east. Today's threat stretches from the Ohio Valley to the Gulf Coast. And then tomorrow, the eastern seaboard will experience heavy downpours, gusty winds, and maybe even an isolated tornado. Well, Thursday morning storms caused damage to several airplanes at the downtown airport in Kansas City, Missouri Thursday morning. National Weather Service is blaming it on a gust-nado. So it's not considered a tornado, more like a small whirlwind, but it was strong enough to leave an impact. Andy Alcock has the story.
Planes flipped over like toys, one stuck in fencing, another one in a heap on the other side of the levee from the downtown airport. Mangled messes of steel and wire.
We've had some damage in the past here and at KCI, but I've never seen in my about 30 years here, anything to this extent.
Take a look at this one. You can see the bent propeller, the gate damaged to the point that it's open. Also the fencing right there with the wing right on top of it. And look how close that wing came to that giant tank of gasoline, fortunately not hitting it. We're told only 2 of the 13 planes in ATD's fleet are not damaged or destroyed. An insurance adjuster came out Thursday afternoon to survey the damage.
Airport's operational, and we're just happy there's no loss of life or any injury.
Normally, the aircraft would have the protection of the hangar, but they were outside in preparation for a fundraiser Friday night. That event raises money for people fighting cancer who have little or no insurance.
Well, we've heard the term severe storm a lot recently, but what exactly does that mean? Meteorologist Pete Pataniak breaks down how storm severity is ranked.
Thunderstorms with, say, 40 to 50 mile an hour winds can do a lot of things. Knock down tree branches, move around patio furniture, drop hail. And of course, they all have dangerous lightning, too. But even with all of these elements, they may not be considered severe, at least not officially. That's because there are criteria the National Weather Service uses that classifies a thunderstorm as severe. A thunderstorm is considered severe when it contains one or more of the following items: hail, 1 inch or greater, winds gusting in excess of 50 knots, that's 58 miles an hour, or a tornado. The reason for this criteria is because these are all the thresholds where most damage starts. When winds get near 60 miles an hour, it can cause shingles to be blown off roofs, knock over trees, and power outages are possible. Hail of 1 inch in diameter, about quarter size, can damage crops and plants and put dings in your car. And if the hail becomes golf ball sized, it can put big dents in your car, really do a lot of damage. When the damage becomes significant, the National Weather Service now has damage threat categories for severe thunderstorms. The base is still 58 miles an hour, 1 inch hail. But when a storm has winds of 70 miles an hour or more and hail of golf ball sized, it's considered a considerable threat. And when a storm has 80 miles an hour winds or more and baseball-sized hail, it is called a destructive threat. That means it's a life-threatening event and may cause substantial damage to property. Destructive storms will trigger your phone to go off with the wireless emergency alert, too. But no matter what category the severe thunderstorms are, when you hear a warning, it's time to take action to protect yourself.
Well, the melting snowpack in California is causing rivers to run much higher than normal. And even though some rivers are closed to recreational activities, a group of kayakers went out on the San Joaquin River yesterday. And as Christina Lopez explains, they had to call 911 for help.
Fresno County Sheriff's Office received a 911 call of a pair of kayakers and their dog stuck on the San Joaquin River, which is currently closed.
Fresno County Sheriff's Department boating unit and swiftwater teams started heading this way. Fresno City Fire was able to get on scene, launch a boat, and rescue the kayakers without any injuries.
But Sergeant Stickler says they shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Fresno County has closed the Kings River and the San Joaquin River from any recreational use. So no boating, no swimming, no floating, no rafting, no kayaking. It's too dangerous right now.
That danger coming from warm weather resulting in rapid snowmelt, quickly deepening and speeding up the river's flow and level. According to the California-Nevada River Forecast Center, the water temperature of the San Joaquin River during the time of the rescue was at 53 degrees. Adding more difficulty to Thursday's river rescue, the area's topography.
Because the water is at levels that we've never seen before, we don't know what's there.
The unknown also a risk factor for those who may be tempted to jump into the Kings or San Joaquin River without knowing what lies beneath.
There's full-grown trees underneath that you can't see, and that water is turning and doing all kinds of stuff underneath it that are incredibly dangerous to swimmers or floaters or even boaters.
Well, you may have seen this yesterday on your social feeds. SpaceX's Starship spacecraft successfully lifted off Thursday, but didn't get far. Starship kicked off its historic first test flight. It soared over the Gulf of Mexico before exploding in midair. Afterwards, SpaceX tweeted, quote, "Today's test will help us improve Starship's reliability as SpaceX seeks to make life multiplanetary." We'll be right back after this quick break.
looking at some sunshine for most areas throughout the Northeast as we head through the day on Friday with mainly sunny skies and very mild temperatures in southern New England over towards New York. 84 degrees, for example, in the Syracuse area, a little cooler up towards areas in Maine. And then as we head through the day on Saturday, our next storm system moves in, and we are going to see some heavy rain move in as we head into Saturday, and this continues into the day Sunday as well.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the mid-Atlantic region. Warming up through the 60s to near 70 by about 9 a.m. up and down the 95 corridor. Big cities probably making it well into the 80s, maybe some mid to upper 80s type readings into our Friday afternoon. So nice and warm there for this time of year. Notice that cooler air trying to approach from the north and west. That will get here as we head towards the second half of the weekend. Till then, the latest weather maker north and west with some nice warm temperatures. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs for the day. Nashville, 75 degrees, 87 in Raleigh, 80 in Charleston, 83 Jacksonville, 78 in Mobile, West Palm about 84 degrees. It looks like we're seeing plenty of sunshine along the Carolinas, the I-95 corridor. Take a look at these storms through the Mississippi Delta as we go through the afternoon on Friday. It looks like we're seeing those stronger storms, and as we get later through the day, we'll probably get some gusty storms pushing through parts of Mississippi, Alabama, and through Atlanta.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Storms this week packed powerful punches. Some also dropped lots of hail, like this, captured in North Oklahoma City. Meanwhile, cool moments captured live, a peak, likely at streaks from the Lyrids meteor shower during Rhode Island meteorologist Christina Ernie's weathercast. The Lyrids meteor shower peaks this weekend.
Listen to Off the Radar, new episodes every Tuesday. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, we have heard a lot about flooding and high water levels in the last several weeks, but when is something considered to be at risk of flooding, and when is it just a flood versus a severe flood? Meteorologist Rebecca Kopelman is in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, with some answers.
We're unfortunately familiar with flooding in eastern Iowa, but what does it mean when a river floods?
The rainfall results in runoff, and then that runoff finds its way into the streams and rivers. Sometimes there is just too much.
Each river has its own defined flood stage. That's when a rise in water begins to threaten lives, property, or commerce. Here in Cedar Rapids, that level starts at 12 feet. Major flood stage starts at 16 feet.
Major flooding is when there is an extensive inundation of structures and road. This is usually when significant evacuations begin to happen and property needs to move to higher levels. This is the time of year when river flooding is most likely due to a combination of snowmelt and springtime thunderstorms.
It doesn't take, very long. It takes maybe a couple of weeks of stormy weather and rainfall to flip.
This is especially the case when the ground is saturated, like a soggy sponge that can't hold any more. That water goes straight into our river system.
Well, in Cincinnati, water cleaning robots are in high demand. As Brad Underwood reports, the robots could be the next big thing when it comes to cleaning polluted waterways.
This here is an autonomous platform. It can drive itself. It can operate itself. It just simply Pac-Mans, find one piece of debris and go for the next.
Not only can it clean marinas, lakes, and oceans, but it can also test water quality. The rover is using cutting-edge technology and solving big-time water pollution problems.
It's really unmanned aircraft technology, which we've taken off of a drone and put onto a boat. and it works very much the exact same way.
This rover is back in town after spending time in Florida, helping cleanup efforts after Hurricane Ian.
Places where it wasn't safe to put a human, so we can put the robot in there instead.
Cleaning debris, algae bloom, and oil spills, the rovers are extremely versatile. Using attachments, it bags up garbage and soaks up chemicals with oil socks. The rover has been to California, Indiana, and Florida for cleanup.
What we can do in 4 hours would take them 3 days.
Most of the testing is done locally at marinas along the Ohio River. And while there's plenty of pollution and debris in the Ohio, it's unclear if the rover will be used to clean the river in the future.
There's really no limitation from a physical power standpoint of how much garbage we can collect or where we can go. It's more limited of just where the practical nature of the debris is. It's really that ability to make someone's life better.
I'm Brad Underwood for the National Weather Desk.
It's tulip time, and Baltimore is one of the many locations across the country enjoying these lovely blooms. Meteorologist Amy Aronson takes us on a tour of the charming Sherwood Gardens.
Danielle Curry from the Guilford Association led me through the garden surrounded by thousands of tulips.
The blooms, as you can see, turned out gorgeous this year. We're very excited and just so thrilled.
Over 60,000 bulbs are brought in from Holland each year. This year's garden features daydreams, foxtrots, all-season pink, and many, many more. As a meteorologist, I of course had to question her on how Mother Nature plays a role in each year's blooms.
The weather is very tricky, right? Because we can't truly predict how it's going to be. I mean, we do rely on you, so thank you, to give us heads up. But the factors of like wind, right? So when we get those really strong winds, sometimes those can blow off the leaves. We don't know, honestly, when the freeze is going to come. Every year it kind of switches up on us, and so that can also impact, right, the blooms and when we're going to get that first early spring weather. And so sometimes we will get blooms a little earlier than scheduled, and we kind of just have to work with it.
And after the flowers are done blooming, an annual tulip dig is held Memorial Day weekend each year.
Bulbs are 30 cents a bulb. And this just gives everyone in the city, right, or people come from outside of the city, all are welcome to participate, to have a little bit of Sherwood Gardens in your own garden.
At Sherwood Gardens, meteorologist Amy Aronson.
Well, tomorrow is the 53rd annual Earth Day. Emily Gracie spoke to the folks at earthday.org to find out what this year's theme is and how you can take part in making the Earth a better place for the future.
This year's theme for 2023 is Invest in Our Planet. What essentially that means is putting resources towards climate mitigation, education, things like that, to both educate the public and start moving towards a better world where we're not as worried about climate change. So we're not as worried about severe weather events. We're not worried about heat. We're not worried about droughts. Just kind of making plans for the future that involve no longer using fossil fuels, no longer relying on plastic, things of that nature. So we're not just polluting the world and then lead into destruction in the future.
So how can a citizen, somebody who's not a politician, somebody who doesn't have a ton of power, how can they take action?
There's a lot of ways you can take action, whether it's just doing a cleanup in your local neighborhood. Earthday.org has a great global cleanup where you can kind of find a cleanup nearby by going to our map, or you can just do your own and then register it. You can also invest in different things. We have investments in Earth Day generally, and then we have investments in our Canopy project, who I'm the coordinator of, so I'm always going to push that a little bit, but that's our reforestation project. There's also, you can reach out to your local governments, your state governments, your national governments, kind of pressure them to take greater action on climate.
Can you tell me about how Earth Day has morphed over the last 50 or so years and why it's still important that we have this day?
Well, we did make huge steps in the 1970s at the start of Earth Day towards creating a better planet. We moved away from leaded gasoline. We started reducing emissions and things of that nature. But yes, it is a day to be happy and grateful for what we have, and just going out and recognizing that it's a great place to be, just going and getting involved in nature and just kind of recognizing that we only have one planet and it's our job to take care of it.
And stay tuned, because later in the show, Emily will have a look at the origins of Earth Day. Well, meteorologists are pretty good at predicting the weather, although we can't be right 100% of the time. But we're not the only resource out there for deciding if you're going to need a jacket before heading out the door. Theron Zahn has a look at why birds might be your best bet for weather prediction.
You might have heard that birds can actually predict the weather. You can look at some ducks here in this pond, and you hear some tweeting going on as well. But, you know, swallows, they actually have very sensitive hearing. Oh, look, there's a heron right there. Swallows have sensitive hearing when it comes to air pressure. So if you see a swallow flying low to the ground, you actually probably are in some low air pressure. That means you could possibly have some stormy weather. But, you know, geese, they like that high pressure. That means they can fly more easily. So if you see geese flying high in the sky, it often means some sunny weather. When it comes to ducks, though, they like just about any kind of weather. That's why when it's raining outside, they say it's lovely weather for ducks.
Time now for a short break, and as we go, we leave you with these views of the Conway River in Conway, South Carolina.
Good Friday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Phil Kelly. A cold front moving through the Mississippi Valley will be the focus of the forecast. Rain out ahead of that from Columbus down into southern Indiana and Kentucky. That's where we'll see the heaviest rain. Colder air back off to our north and west. We'll see the drying conditions in the Mississippi Valley, but as that cold front continues to push off to the east for the second half of the weekend, drier but much colder air will start to work its way in to the Ohio Valley.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. A little chilly up here in Amarillo and back over to Oklahoma, where we're seeing temperatures into the 40s, 60s, and 70s, with rain still going on as the front makes its way down to the south and southeast. Big showers up into Arkansas, heading over into Louisiana and deep into South Texas. Temperatures behind this front, they will kind of cool down a little bit. We'll see 70s and some 80s down to the south, 60s on up to the north. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. That's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there, everybody, and TGIF Friday morning here out west, and we're trying for some drying in the Pacific Northwest. Quick moving front pushing through the I-5 corridor, jumping over the Continental Divide today. Meanwhile, in the desert Southwest, here comes the heat with 91 out of Phoenix and Tucson, 77 beauty out of LA. But again, the wet weather, this weather maker pushing through the Intermountain West with some snow near the Continental Divide. And that's the scene from here.
Well, we heard a little bit about Earth Day earlier, but what is the history behind it? Meteorologist Emily Gracie has a look at how Earth Day was started.
Back in 1970, there was no Clean Air Act, no Clean Water Act. It was totally legal for a factory to spew black clouds of toxic smoke into the air or dump tons of toxic waste into a nearby stream. So a U.S. Senator named Gaylord Nelson had this brilliant idea of organizing a National Day of Environmental Teach-In. That became the very first Earth Day. Over 20 million Americans came together to promote environmental protection and raise awareness about climate change. And it worked. Later that year, Congress authorized the creation of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Fast forward to today, Earth Day has become a global phenomenon, celebrated in over 190 countries, and mobilizing billions of people to take action for a more sustainable future. For the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie.
Well, we would love to connect with you. You can find us on all your favorite social media platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search the National Weather Desk or scan the QR code on the bottom left of your screen. We'll be right back. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you have a great Earth Day tomorrow. I'm meteorologist Eileen Whalen. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday.